My hands were trembling as I touched the delicate lace of my wedding dress for what felt like the 100th time that week. The fabric was soft, almost fragile, just like the version of me that still believed in forever. I stood in front of the tall mirror in our bedroom, the late afternoon sun pouring through the curtains we had picked out together. I whispered to my reflection, "Elena, you're actually getting married. My name is Elena Voss." At 32, I thought I had finally outrun the loneliness that had followed me since losing my father. Daniel Hayes walked into my life like a promise I never knew I needed.
He was
Tall, confident, with warm brown eyes that seemed to hold every answer I was searching for. He remembered how I took my coffee, how I hated thunderstorms because they reminded me of the night Dad passed, and how I secretly cried during old romantic movies even though I pretended to be strong. For 2.5 years, he was my safe harbor. When I had panic attacks about my father's estate, he held me. When I doubted myself as a graphic designer, he told me my work was brilliant. He introduced me to his family as the woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. He kissed my forehead every night and said, "You're my peace, Elena." I believed him with every piece of my shattered, hopeful heart. Our wedding was going to be everything I had dreamed of since I was a little girl flipping through my mother's old photo albums, a beautiful garden venue overlooking the lake, ivory and blush roses, string lights that looked like captured stars, and 200 people watching me walk toward the man who made me feel chosen. I spent months obsessing over every detail. I handwritten the vows at 2 a.m. one night, tears of joy falling onto the paper as I wrote, "You taught me that love can be gentle." But what I didn't know, what I could never have imagined in my wildest nightmares, was that while I was choosing our first dance song and tasting cakes, Daniel was living an entirely different life right under my nose. A life where I was nothing more than a convenient bridge to money, comfort, and status. I still remember the exact moment the first crack appeared. It was a Thursday evening. I had come home early from a client meeting, excited to show him the final wedding invitations. The apartment smelled like the pasta I had planned to surprise him with. His phone was on the kitchen counter, buzzing. I glanced at it innocently. The way any loving fiancé would dot the preview on the lock screen hit me, like ice water poured straight into my veins. "Sophia, I miss you inside me already. Tell her you're working late again tonight. I need you, Sophia, my best friend." The woman who had hugged me when Daniel proposed. The one who helped me pick my engagement ring and cried with me in the dressing room. My stomach twisted violently. I set the invitations down slowly, as if any sudden movement would make this real. I told myself it was a mistake. A wrong number, anything but the truth. But deep down, in that quiet, terrifying place where we already know before we admit it, I knew that was the beginning of the end of the Elena, who loved without limits. I didn't confront him that night. Instead, I waited until he came home, smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. I smiled. I kissed his cheek. I asked him how his long day was, and while he showered, I sat on the cold bathroom floor with his phone in my hands and read months of betrayal. Hundreds of messages, photos of them in hotel rooms, voice notes where he laughed about how I had gained a little weight from stress and how Sophia's body was actually worth coming home to. He told her my father's inheritance was the only reason he was still here. He said our wedding was the grand finale before I start my real life with you. Each word carved into me like glass. I cried silently so he wouldn't hear. When he stepped out of the shower, I was already back in the kitchen, stirring pasta with shaking hands. He wrapped his arms around me from behind and said, "God, I'm so lucky to have you." I almost threw up on his shoes. The following weeks became a masterclass in hidden pain. I continued planning the wedding like a woman in love, while inside I was dying. I met Sophia for brunch and listened to her lie to my face about how Daniel was such a good man. I watched her touch my arm with the same hands that had touched him. I smiled through it all. At night, I couldn't sleep. I would lie next to him, listening to his breathing, replaying every memory. The night he proposed on one knee at the lake. The time he flew across the country when I had food poisoning. Was any of it real? Or had I been a fool the entire time? My emotional struggle was suffocating. One moment I wanted to burn everything. The next I wanted to beg him to choose me. I hated myself for still loving him. I hated myself more for not seeing the signs earlier. The sudden late nights, the new password on his laptop, the way he sometimes pulled away when I tried to be intimate. I started documenting everything. Screenshots, bank records, hotel bookings charged to our shared card. I even installed a quiet voice recorder app on my phone and left it running during conversations. Every "I love you," he said, now tasted like poison, but I collected them like evidence. The final blow came 10 days before the wedding. I discovered he had already moved $187,000 from our joint wedding and house fund into an account linked to Sophia. The memo read investment. He had booked 2 one-way tickets to Bali for the day after our supposed wedding. He was planning to leave me at the altar, humiliated in front of everyone, and disappear with my money and my best friend. That night, something inside me finally broke, and something new was born. I sat on the balcony where he once promised me forever, wrapped in a blanket, tears freezing on my cheeks in the cold wind. I whispered to the dark city lights, "You took everything from me. Now I'm taking everything from you." The soft, trusting Elena died that night. The woman who rose in her place was quieter, sharper, and far more dangerous. I would let the wedding happen, but it would not be the celebration he expected. The morning of the wedding was eerily beautiful. Clear blue skies, gentle breeze. I got ready in a private suite, staring at myself in the mirror as the makeup artist worked. My mother kept saying how radiant I looked. I felt like a ghost wearing a bride's skin as I walked down the aisle, arm linked with my uncle. Every step felt heavier than the last. 200 faces turned toward me, smiling, whispering how perfect we looked. Daniel stood at the altar, handsome in his charcoal suit, wearing the same smile that once made me weak. When I reached him, he took my hands and leaned in. "You look incredible, baby. Today's the first day of our forever." I looked into his eyes and felt nothing but ice. The officiant began, but before the vows, I turned to the guests and said softly, "Before we continue, there's something everyone should see." The large screen behind the altar, meant for our romantic slideshow, lit up. Message after message, photos, bank transfers. His own voice recorded 2 days earlier saying, "After tomorrow, Elena becomes yesterday's news. Sophia, you and I are finally free." The crowd erupted, gasps, cries, phones recording. Daniel's face turned ghostly white. Sophia, seated in the 3rd row in the lavender dress I had approved, tried to run but was blocked by security I had quietly arranged. I stood tall in my wedding dress and spoke clearly, voice trembling only slightly. Daniel Hayes came into my life when I was grieving. He pretended to love me while planning to destroy me for money. Today, instead of becoming his wife, I become free. This wedding is canceled. The man you see before you is a liar, a thief, and a coward. Chaos. His mother fainted. My cousins surrounded me protectively. Daniel tried to grab my arm, whispering desperately, "Elena, please, we can fix this." I pulled away and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Don't ever touch me again." Security removed them both, and the weeks that followed, I made sure the consequences were complete. I shared the full evidence with his investors. His startup lost all funding within 9 days. Clients dropped him. Sophia was fired after the recordings circulated in our industry. Daniel's name became poisoned. He lost the apartment. he lost his reputation. He lost the future he thought he had cleverly secured. 6 months later, he showed up at my new home, thinner, broken, eyes hollow. He begged on his knees in the rain. I lost everything. I realize now how much I love you. Please, Elena. I looked down at him and felt only quiet pity. You never loved me, Daniel. You loved what I could give you. I hope one day you become a man capable of real love, but I will never be part of your story again. I closed the door gently. Today, I sit here telling you my story with a calm heart. I kept the house. I built the foundation in my father's name to support women recovering from betrayal and financial abuse. I started painting again. I travel. I laugh louder. I love myself in ways I never did before. If someone betrays you at the edge of your biggest dream, remember this. Their betrayal says everything about their character and nothing about your worth. The pain will feel unbearable. You will question everything. But in that darkness, you have a choice. Stay broken or rise sharper, wiser, and whole. I lost the wedding. I lost the man I thought he was. But I found the woman I was always meant to become. Never let anyone convince you that your softness is a weakness. Your ability to love deeply is a gift. Just make sure next time you give that gift to someone who truly deserves it. And if they don't, become the storm they never saw coming. You are stronger than their betrayal. You are more valuable than their lies.